Hello everyone, this is Lord Nod at E3. We are having a ball of a time. This is a personal genre I personally like. This is something we call the Elder Scrolls. Guys, if you do not know Elder Scrolls, you need to pause this video, you need to go ahead and wiki it or something, you need to get an education. But for all of you guys who know what Elder Scrolls is, this is Elder Scrolls Online. We have a great guy who's part of us. He's the guy who's got this, Elder Scrolls Online. This is Nick. Nick, tell us what you do at Elder Scrolls Online and what's the game about?
Absolutely. I'm the lead gameplay designer, so anything to do with combat or progression or monsters, that's sort of what my team handles.
Stop. All bow. This is the man. He is the man. Carry on.
You're too good to me. What the game is about is basically taking what people have known and love about the Elder Scrolls franchise, right? A really immersive world, an open-ended world where you get to make lots of choices, and just putting that into space where you can play with friends. It's something that really started from something that is a fan request. Everyone was like, I just made this really cool character and I love my world and I just wish I could play it and share it with friends. And that's what we strove to do.
Excellent. So I can go ahead and take my level 60, imaginatively, shaman, thief, and go ahead and fight someone who's a tank hulking berserker?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think you really hinted at what I think is something that is iconic to the Elder Scrolls franchise, which is making a character that does whatever you want to do. And that's very much what our progression system is. It isn't like, hey, you picked mage, so you're going to wear light armor and shoot a staff, and that's how you make the character you want to make. You can pick a class, but if you want to put on heavy armor and use a sword, you can do that. And if you want to wear medium armor and sneak around and stab people in the back, and you're still a mage, you can do that. There's nothing that stops you from making the character you want to make.
Whoa, that is so much fun.
And then you share that with your friends and compare builds with your friends.
Nice. So in terms of the timeline, where does this sit in the entire Elder Scrolls timeline?
It's in the second era. So the end of Oblivion was the end of the third era in the franchise. So let's call it 1,000 years before Skyrim took place.
So this is just before Skyrim, and so does the world look a little different? Does it look more Oblivion-ish or more Skyrim-ish?
Well, all the different provinces in Tamriel are sort of represented. So you can go to Cyrodiil and see what Cyrodiil, which was the setting for Oblivion, what that looked like 1,000 years ago. And similarly for Skyrim, you can go to Skyrim, you can go check out East March, and that region, you can see what the city of Whiterun looks like. It's all there, and for the most part, the locations are the same, a lot of the structures are the same, but 1,000 years in the past, maybe it's not identical. If there was a river, that's still going to be there, but if there's a house, maybe that will or won't. And it's very much the same setting and world that you'd expect. Skyrim looks like Skyrim, Morrowind looks like Morrowind, Cyrodiil looks like Cyrodiil. Plus there's a bunch of different provinces that you haven't seen since the days of Redguard, since you could explore the whole world, and that was 8-bit back then, so it's really an updated version of the entire continent of Tamriel.
So how big is the game, and like both in terms of the layout in kilometers or in map sizes and as a download?
I don't actually know, because I don't think we've locked down our actual full game size, so I don't know that I have the answer of that. And as far as how big the world is, it's big. I know you can run a really long ways and not get to the end of it. I can talk in terms of hours of content, which is the one I typically use. I know that playing through 1/3 of the content, which would basically get you to level 50, the max level, is approximately 120 or 140 hours of content. And then you can play the other 2 after that with that same character. And so that would get you to 360 to 400 plus hours of content just playing the sort of solo area, not doing anything group-oriented, not doing the PvP endgame. So
basically you're saying goodbye life.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly wanted to create a world that people could live in for a very long time.
Excellent. Now let's talk about more in terms of what is the kind of gameplay style that you will encourage. Now the entire Elder Scrolls literally been about the story, right? Every one of the stories is full of lore, it's full of facets. How do you take that single player experience and bring it to the multiplayer experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're describing the hard and fun part of what we've done. It's absolutely a story-driven experience, but not just story, exploration of story. You don't just follow a specific set of quests and be like, well, I'm going to learn what happens next and then what happens next. You're going to interject choice, And you're going to have the option of being like, you know what, I don't even like what's going on here, I'm just going to walk that way. And whatever you run into is the next thing you can do, which is very much iconic to the franchise. As far as the gameplay goes, the combat system goes, it should feel very, very familiar. It's a game where you aim your reticle, move your mouse around, clicking is going to be a light attack, you can hold for a heavy, so a lot of that's familiar. I would say the main difference is, in Skyrim and other Elder Scrolls games, you tend to pause to switch which spell you're going to use at any given time, which obviously isn't possible in an online RPG. So we give you sort of a shortcut bar with your 6 favorite spells, and you can just activate them in the middle of combat with, by pressing the key, and that'll consume magic and everything. So instead of just having one spell and cycling that, you actually have 6.
Which is something that World of Warcraft taught everyone how to go ahead and do fairly well. But I won't put it beyond you to go ahead and having improved of that. So what's the improvements here?
Yeah, well, I would say there's differences between the two. It's almost a different style of game and almost different development, a different era. You'll find that our game doesn't have any cooldowns. It isn't about, let me just use these abilities in a rotation. It's about, let me look at the world, not the UI. You don't want to stare at your hotbar and use things at the right moment, use things as soon as they're available off cooldown or as soon as you've built up enough of whatever resource. It's about, oh look, that guy's attacking me, I should block now. Oh wait, 3 have got me, let me fire the spell that's going to stun them all, because this is the moment for it. It's about looking in the world and playing in the world, which is what you'd expect out of an Elder Scrolls RPG, and maybe not as much out of a more traditional old school MMO. And so we definitely pushed it in the direction of react to the world, react to the combat situations the world presents you, not look at your UI and do things in the right order, otherwise you lose.
At the core of it, have you still kept the D&D engine in terms of choices, in terms of dice, in terms of play? Is there can I go ahead and try and kill a level 50 behemoth when I'm level 1?
You can try. Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to how that experience would go in Skyrim. There is an underlying math system that happens in the background, but the game isn't about presenting you with numbers. You don't just see scrolling combat text. It's about immersion in the world. It's about sort of looking at the world and not anything to do with the UI. And so, yes, you could go try and fight a giant titan right at level 1 when you don't have the skills to do it, and he'll drop you, and that's how that'll go. But you can then power up and go take him out later.
Excellent. Probably one of the last 2 questions.
Okay.
Have you decided a business model for this?
We're not talking about it right now.
So they're not talking about it right now, but we can go ahead and imagine that a company like Bethesda would go ahead and bring in some phenomenal inputs here. Last question. When you come up with a game that is so immersive, I want to go ahead and talk about the social impacts of it.
All right.
And now we are at E3, and I can give you examples. So on one side, you've got games like DayZ, right? So extremely real, extremely true, but extremely tough. And that brings out people, some attitudes in people where they'll gang up on you and really spoil the experience for you as a multiplayer game. How do you go ahead and prevent something like that from happening?
I think it really boils down to player choice and giving players the option to do that if that's what they want to do. So I think the main way we've handled it is you pick your alliance, you're leveling through the content, and when you're in that part of the world, you're just playing with other people in your alliance. You're safe. No one's going to stab you in the back. No other player is going to stab you in the back. There's, the monsters may do anything. But if you want to go participate in a large-scale PvP battle, persistent world, you just go into Cyrodiil. And in Cyrodiil, which is, again, the setting for the game Oblivion, there is just a war happening with 3 factions, with huge territory control implications that never ever ends. It's not just a 10-minute battleground style situation. It's take over this area, and that'll sort of fill the bloodlust of the people who really want to participate in the battles. We're talking about thousands of players participating in a persistent PvP environment. So I really think the key is to give people the option to play the way they want to play.
Excellent. And the tough question, which you probably will go ahead and slink out of, but I'll ask it anyway.
All right.
Launch date.
What we've said so far is spring 2014.
And you think we'll be ready for it?
I feel really good about it.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is LordNod at E3. We are having so much fun at Bethesda, and I'm now going to go and do a demo at a theater. And you don't have to wait. We will go ahead and show some of it online after this.
Great.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
Cheers.